Welcome to Season 2 of the Dr. Nikki Starr Show, a podcast to support you in your spiritual awakening and personal development. As a spiritual teacher, healer, and intuitive coach, my intention is to empower you to live your ultimate potential and your ultimate life. As a former medical doctor and mystic, my role is to bridge the gap between science and spirituality to support you in understanding more of your multidimensional aspects. I share on a diverse range of topics, and it's all to support your greatest becoming. My mission is to continue reaching millions of people for the healing and awakening of humankind for the creation of the new earth. Thank you for being here.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Dr. Nikki Starr Show. I'm your host, Dr. Nikki Starr, and today we will be talking about substance-free living. I'm going to define it for you. I'm going to share about my lifestyle, how it all came to be, and why I believe this is a true path for ascension, and how we can really become our ultimate potential when we choose substance-free living. Now, let's just begin from a neutral place, from society standards. In society standards, it's quite normal to have a glass of wine with a meal, to go out to drink with your friends, to, now vaping has become all the rage. But before that, it was like normal for people to have cigarettes. And even before that too, it's like, oh yeah, we just put like sugar in everything. And if you go to the grocery store, like everything has sugar in it. It's normal to wake up and go to the coffee shop and get your coffee. And all of these things that I'm talking about are substances. Anything that alters your state of consciousness through some kind of stimulant or depressant is a substance. So stimulants, for example, would be like caffeine and sugar, which then after you have the sugar can cause a depressant in your body where you feel that crash. And then things like alcohol are a suppressant. It even depresses your respiratory system. It alters your mind and your consciousness. And then just like we discussed in the last episode around psychedelics, this is a mind-altering substance, but also any kind of drugs, any kind of recreational drugs that change the way you feel. From the natural ones you find in nature, like mushrooms, I do put them all together because they do change your consciousness. They change how your energy is in your body. And the same is true for white powdered substances or things that you smoke. These are all substances that change you from your baseline state. And in society and in mainstream culture, it's really quite normal. Even though some of these substances are illegal, it's still quite normal for a lot of people to just engage with them because it's part of life. Like even in the spiritual community, it's quite normal to do psychedelics. It's normal for people who work 9 to 5s to go out to drinks on a Thursday night or a Friday night with their colleagues. This is normal. This is normal behavior. And I know because I grew up in New York City. I lived in Manhattan for over a decade. I was born in Manhattan. And then when I went to college, I moved back into Manhattan, and it was the lifestyle. It was totally normal to go to dinner and there's the cocktail menu and you order a delicious cocktail and this is life. So first off, there's no judgment here. What I am doing is providing an alternative reality, an alternative path to support you in your greatest becoming, to support you in reaching your highest potential and your multidimensional aspects. So as I've already stated, as my intention for this podcast, I am going to be sharing things that you might agree with, might not agree with. But if it even for a moment have you be more mindful, have you be more intentional about everything you do in your life, then I have fulfilled my role as an activator and a catalyst for people on their spiritual awakening journey, for people who are here to reach their ultimate potential, which includes your multidimensional aspects. When I say your multidimensional aspects, I'm talking about mind, body, and spirit. And when you do any kind of substance, now, mind you, all of these substances that I've mentioned, they create dependency. So there is an aspect of addiction connected to every single one of them. So some people would say, like, well, how do we define a substance? Everything can be a substance. Yes, this is true. But for the sake of this podcast and for this discussion, anything that can create any form of addiction or dependency. So for example, if you drink coffee every single day and then you stop, you will get a headache because your body has become dependent on it. Same thing, if you drink certain levels of alcohol every single day, your body will feel the deficit of it when it goes away. And in the extreme cases with alcoholics, or even people who just drink a lot, you can get shakes, you can actually get neurological symptoms when you don't have it. And the same is true for psychedelics. Never-ending search for the answer when the answers are all inside of you. So my role here today is to discuss substances from this perspective and how you reaching your optimal self is minus any substances. You operating from your highest truth, your true frequency without any noise in your field. And sugar does this as well. Sugar is also a toxic substance and an addictive substance. And this is why people have sugar addictions and they don't even realize it. And I'm choosing to use all of them together because, yeah, some of you may still smoke. Some of you may still drink alcohol every day and not even pay any attention, thinking there's a problem. And some of you may be doing psychedelics every week or multiple times a week. Who knows? We're all in different phases here, right? And what I want to talk to you about today specifically is what's happening when these substances are taken. And in the bonus content, I'm going to share with you an energetic practice that prevents you from feeling like you need something outside of yourself. So oftentimes people take a substance because they want to change how they feel. That whatever you're feeling at baseline is not good enough or not pleasurable enough. But what if I told you that with energy practices, certain types of meditative practices, that you could feel so good and so pleasurable in your body that you just putting a substance into your body would feel horrible. And that's what happened to me. So I grew up in New York City, was going to college, doing all the things, going out to dinners, having cocktails with my dinner, ate whatever I wanted, all kinds of sugary desserts, all kinds of things. Like I was just living normal, like no problem. Then I went to my yoga teacher training where for a whole month, I did yoga every single day for like 12 hours a day. And it was cleansing, optimizing, detoxing my system, enhancing my nervous system, but also my circulatory system and my lymphatic system. So I was becoming this like really healthy, clean, pure, well-oiled machine that after the first week, when no one drank, when we were in the weekdays, Monday through Saturday, doing Ashtanga, which is the most rigorous form of yoga, it's like the militant form of yoga. Our bodies were changing, our energies were changing. And that Sunday, we all had Sunday dinner and some of us had wine. And I woke up Monday feeling like I got hit by a truck and I only had one glass. And this was the moment that I questioned, like, why do I drink alcohol? Why? And that was the start of like changing my entire life. I never had a problem with it. Yes, I got tipsy, whatever. I think 3 times, just 2 times in my whole life did I quote unquote black out because I did shots, and that was in medical school. And thankfully, I grew up in a culture and a family that wasn't super strict around that. Like, so even when I was like a teenager, like I had some alcohol, like it wasn't really a big deal. So I didn't go to college and have that like crazy experience of doing keg stands. To be honest, I never even really liked beer or alcohol, but if there was nice fruity cocktails, I would drink them. And I would love like spicy tequila cocktails. That was like my jam, like before I could let it all go. But I never really liked the taste. And even when I would go out to clubs, like, and I was in medical school or in college, I would not always drink. So there was an aspect of me that was like, I don't even need this and I don't even really want it. And I don't really like the taste. And then when I was in medical school, I learned how all of these substances are toxic to the body. So from a physiologic perspective, alcohol is a neurotoxin. Every time you drink alcohol, you kill brain cells. This is why neuroimaging studies of alcoholics, literally their brain shrinks. And this is why there's forgetfulness. Even the alcoholic brain is known to lie. So there are a lot of aspects to, let's say, even just drinking alcohol that is so toxic for your body. There's actually no benefit. The only form of a benefit that has been found has been in red wine, where there's resveratrol, which is a form of an antioxidant. But even the resveratrol you can find in other kinds of berries, in certain kinds of chocolates. So you don't even need to have that particular substance. It really, like, did they say that it could like affect certain things? Yeah, but the toxins does not outweigh the benefits. Like the toxins outweigh the benefits, excuse me. So there's no benefit. It's also empty calories. So if you're someone who has struggled with weight or your body is not in the best shape that you would like it to be, like alcohol is the number one thing to clear out of your system. From a smoking perspective, we know how toxic it is to the lungs. Even the new vaping, like this is also causing a lot of lung issues. You're breathing a chemical into your lungs, like even from a common sense standpoint, you're blocking oxygen from going into the body. So you're affecting the purity of the oxygen that fuels every cell in your body. Like there's no benefit. Can you feel altered in your mind and a little high for a moment? Sure. But I'm going to share with you, and in my Ultimate Energy course, I share with you ways to feel so good in your body that you don't need anything outside of yourself. And same thing as I mentioned with psychedelics, there are the risks. Like you can stay dissociated out of your body. You can have psychotic episodes and breaks where you can't tell the difference from what's the trip world versus the actual 3D world of reality. So there is always that risk. And the same is true for recreational drugs. Like we see people have heart attacks with use and continued use of certain white powders and substances. Even with smoking marijuana, you can have forgetfulness and procrastination and laziness. And from an energetic standpoint, it really creates this film, like this haze around you. It's like this grayness. So that crystalline energy field is not happening if you're smoking pot and even eating it, because it's infiltrating into your fields. All of these substances go into your energy fields and will affect the clarity of your signal that you're putting out into the universe. Now, some people like to use recreational drugs and psychedelics and such. I've heard people say, oh, it helps me be really creative. But what if you could learn to meditate in a way that opens you up to source, the connection to source, like the ultimate connection to creation, to download your inspirational insights for your art, for your creations. So you do not need them, because all of these things have secondary effects that are negative to your body. That over time, if you continue to, sure, if you tried it, sure, it's great. But from now forward, moving on from this conversation, is it really for your highest and best good? If it's something you're engaging with every single day, or regularly, even monthly is regularly. So you really want to be mindful about what you're putting into your body and your being, because it's affecting your vibration and your frequency. And your vibration and your frequency is what is creating your reality. And what happens when you take any of these substances, you have a moment of feeling altered from yourself. And usually what is happening is you're being taken out of your body. And this is why a lot of people who take any form of a substance, it's a form of self-medication. So you might feel anxious, so you go have a glass of wine or smoke a joint or whatever. And it's because, or you're feeling tired, so you have the caffeine to pick you up or the sugar to give you a boost. But what if you could learn how to clear your energy fields, come fully into your body, be grounded, alert, focused, present, fully online, that any of that stuff would actually harm your system? Because that's what happened to me on my journey. As I began to really align my being, really come into the truth of who I am, anything I was putting in myself was dampening me. It was dimming my light. It was causing me to not be my best self. And if, of course, you have any form of, where I see a lot of people medicating with substances is secondary to trauma. So if you've had challenging experiences in your life, like every person has experienced trauma in some form. And when you experience trauma, it often takes you out of your body. And until that is healed or integrated or understood, there can be a feeling in the body that wants help. And so substances is often where people turn to, because it helps to take you out of the moment, out of your body, out of your mind. So you don't have to think about that stuff. So you don't have to feel those things. So yes, there is a function in form of self-medication, and some people are not even conscious to it. The other thing is, because substances create dependence and addiction, you could have entities and energy forms that are feeding off of you, that are the things creating the addiction, that then cause you to feel that itch, that desire, that wanting that fix for that sugar or that drink or that smoke or that sniff or whatever. So as we're on our path to reaching our ultimate potential, we want to clear and cleanse. And the first step is just to bring awareness. So the intention of this podcast is to really have you reflect. Are you regularly using substances that may not be for your highest and best good? And oftentimes, even though you have a moment of feeling good on the substance, there are also moments of not feeling good because of the substance. And I just ask you to love yourself in this moment. Like, it's okay. Maybe this is the first moment you're ever bringing conscious awareness to some of the habits that you have. And sometimes they're just habits. Like for me, I was just living in New York City and like, it was normal. Like these restaurants have amazing cocktails. Like, of course I'm going to have a cocktail with my meal. Like, of course. And now what I love seeing is more and more people are becoming conscious and choosing alcohol-free living as one example. And every restaurant I go to, pretty much every restaurant has now mocktails. So it doesn't mean that you can't enjoy life. Of course you can. And I've learned to make desserts that are sugar-free and they have natural sugar, like whether it's maple syrup or honey. The white cane sugar is like the biggest killer of all. It's even shown to have there's holes in the bones of people who excessively take it in. Like it's so toxic. It is toxic to your circulatory system. This is why we see in diabetics all these sores in their lower extremities. It hurts your arteries. Like it hurts your vessels. It's a toxin to your body. All substances are toxins. Even some plant medicine psychedelics that are used are actually poisons. Like it's a poison that you're putting into your body. But there's so much more now. There's vibrational medicine, there's the healing, there's things that we can empower ourselves with that don't have the negative side effects. So let's clear out anything in our lives that creates negative side effects. We have that power. There's some things we can't control, but where we can control things, let's be mindful. Let's love our bodies. Let's love our brains. Let's love our minds. Let's love our beings. Let's love our energy. Let's take care of ourselves. So it's like, imagine if you were a baby, your baby, who you love the most in the whole world. Only give to yourself what you would give your baby, what you would give the person you love the most in the world. That's a great place to start. So you're like, I'm not sure what to shift. And know that there is a substitute for everything. And I'm actually going to have an episode that talks, and I go into this in my Ultimate Nutrition program too, where we can live a healthy lifestyle and we don't have to be deprived of anything. And so that'll be a separate episode because I want to stick to substances. And I also feel it's important for me to share a little bit about my background with substances, because I think that a lot of people grow up in places where it's just normal to see people drink or see people have experiences. So as I mentioned, like I never had an issue with it. If anything, I actually didn't like it. I had a bit of an aversion to substances. Like for me, I went through college, high school, med school, everything, where the only substance I had was like sugar and alcohol. And that was it. Maybe I tried a few cigarettes here and there when I was younger, but that was it. I never did recreational drugs. I had never done psychedelics. It wasn't until after medical school, also because I was like practicing in accordance and in alignment with like hospital standards, and like people's lives were in my hands. So you can't do mind altering substances when, and I had some coffee actually. I never had coffee in school, but when I was in my residency, like I did have coffee because our hours were crazy and we worked so much. And so to stay focused, because sometimes when I would get tired, I would get dyslexic. So I would have caffeine as well. But that was only for like 2 years of my life. It was during rotation time. So maybe like 3 years, like junior year, senior year of med school, and then my intern year of residency in the hospital. I used caffeine as an actual substance to help me stay awake and alert, but it wasn't good for my system. Like I could feel anxiety. I could feel my nervous system on edge. And so my biological father, and I've had to do healing around birth guilt, because I was born to my parents when my mother was still in high school. Well, she was in her senior year when she was pregnant, and my biological father was a year older. So they were 17 and 18. They met in high school and they were in love and they got together, and I just happened. And part of their story is they lived the sex, drugs, and rock and roll scene of the 80s, hung out with the 80s rock bands like Guns N' Roses. And drugs was part of the reality. And when my mother became pregnant with me and they got married and they moved into their own place, he decided to leave college and start being a drug dealer. And so drugs became like part of the reality. And so as, in the womb, postpartum, in the first few months of life, and even beyond that, my father did end up going to jail for selling drugs when I was around 5 years old. And it's just fascinating. And, and they ended up getting divorced, and my mom remarried to my stepdad, who very interestingly, like doesn't do drugs, doesn't drink at all. He was like the complete opposite in terms of substance use of my father, my biological father. So I had event, there were a parent who drinks wine, or every night a parent who drinks alcohol. That wasn't my experience, but there was the experience of also one parent that did have addiction and did have substance issues. So it's not that I come, and I think it's important for me to share that, because I don't want you to think that I come from this like pious background where like we're all spiritual and we all are perfect and there is no problem. No, because even I believe my mother's, their addiction runs in my family actually. And like without identifying people or situations, but I know of other family members who have in their lifetime suffered from addictions of different forms, whether it was alcohol or substance use, etc. And so I know it. I understand when it's actually a pathology as well. And if that's the case for you, choosing a spiritual path and things like yoga and meditation and breath work, and you can move the addiction to something healthy, something that can support you. Of course, you may need to go through the detox process. And if you have a loved one who may benefit from this podcast, I invite you to share it, because sometimes people don't know what's available for them. But if you find like even the gym can be a great replacement, because you get that endorphin rush. With yoga, you get that beautiful endorphin rush with the stretching and the movement. So you get that natural high from the inside out. So there's plenty of ways to go about shifting habits from one that may be harmful to one that might be helpful. And for me, I was always like, I'm not touching recreational drugs. I'm not doing anything that puts me too far outside of my mind, because I was sensitive to that because of my father, because of people in my family. And so then it was a beautiful experience to then go and have that 3 years, as I shared in the last episode on psychedelics, where I tried psychedelics and I was like, okay, this is what it's about. But then to continue on my spiritual path and know I can get there with energy work, I can get there with breath work, I can get there with meditation. And so part of why people use substances is because they don't feel good at baseline in their body. And that's what a lot of my work is about, is how you can feel your best, mind, body, spirit. And what are the practices and the things in real time that you can do to enhance yourself and enhance your life. And that's why I've created the libraries of courses that I have. That's why I have all the different ways you can connect with me. And there's all kinds and all the different healings. Because the more we come back home into our bodies and we feel safe and we feel grounded and we do the healing work to integrate any fragmented parts of ourselves that may have experienced pains, wounds, traumas, and we come back to our wholeness and we come back to the truth, who we are, free from the noise of the outside world, free from the substances and the habits and the things and the influences that are not really us. So the more sovereign we become, the more pleasure we feel, both in our bodies and in our lives. And this is the path to living your ultimate potential. You don't need anything outside of yourself. All of the answers are within you. And so with that, may this podcast really serve to support you in bringing awareness to your actions, to your habits. And I wish for you, and I pray for all of you, that you be more intentional. You be more intentional. You really choose what's for your highest and best good. And if you're serious about your spiritual path and your personal development, find the practices, the teachers that will support you to be that medication, that will be the prescription for you to be your ultimate self, to feel really good in your body, to heal, to rise to your ultimate potential. And so with that, I invite you to join me in the bonus content where I'm going to be sharing an energy practice that will help you to come more into your body and feel really good in your body. And that's the medicine for every time you might feel you want to go and grab something sweet or have a smoke or have a drink or whatever your substance of choice is, that you become your substance of choice. You get high on your own supply. You get high on your good energy and the beauty of who you are, because you are magnificent. You absolutely are within yourself with all the gifts and the conglomerate of who you are. And it's growing that light, amplifying your true essence, your true frequency, your energy. And that clears everything out that's not serving. And so with that, I send you so much love. Thank you for being here today. Share this podcast with anyone you feel who could benefit. And I'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Dr. Nikki Starr Show. Please like this podcast and share it with anyone you feel would benefit. Subscribe to the podcast to receive bonus content. And remember, every Monday, the video version goes live on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for being on the ascension path with me and for doing this great work. Sending love until next time.